Parker, released in 2013, is a crime thriller built around one simple but powerful idea: a professional thief who lives by a strict personal code. This movie is based on the famous Parker novels written by Donald E. Westlake under the pen name Richard Stark. The character of Parker has appeared in many adaptations over the years, but this version brings him into a modern setting with a sharp, stylish edge. Directed by Taylor Hackford and starring Jason Statham in the lead role, the film mixes action, crime, betrayal, and revenge into one intense ride. At its core, Parker is not just about robbery or action. It is about rules. Parker is not a typical criminal. He does not steal from regular people. He does not hurt innocent bystanders. He does not double-cross his partners, and he does not tolerate betrayal. That moral code sets him apart from the criminals around him and becomes the driving force of the story. When his own crew turns against him, the film transforms into a personal mission of justice, revenge, and survival. Jason Statham brings his familiar tough guy presence to the role, but this time with a slightly deeper layer. Parker is not loud or flashy. He is calm, focused, and always thinking 3 steps ahead. The film also stars Jennifer Lopez as Leslie Rogers, a struggling real estate agent who unexpectedly becomes part of Parker's dangerous world. Her character adds tension, emotion, and even moments of humor to the otherwise dark and serious tone of the film. The story begins with a high-stakes robbery at a state fair. The sequence immediately sets the tone: fast, controlled, and intense. The crew executes the heist with precision, but once the job is done, greed begins to creep in. Parker refuses to join a much bigger and riskier robbery that the rest of the crew wants to attempt. His decision triggers a brutal betrayal that leaves him shot and left for dead. But Parker survives. And from that moment, the movie shifts into a revenge-driven hunt. What makes Parker interesting for viewers is its balance between action and character. While the film delivers shootouts, fights, and tense confrontations, it also explores loyalty, trust, and personal boundaries. Parker is a criminal, but the film frames him almost like a modern anti-hero. The audience is encouraged to root for him because he stands by his word and punishes those who break it. The setting also plays an important role. Much of the movie takes place in Palm Beach, Florida, during a luxury jewelry auction event. The contrast between Parker's rough criminal world and the wealthy, polished environment of high society creates a strong visual and thematic clash. It shows how crime and greed exist at every level, whether on the streets or in elite circles. The pacing of the film keeps viewers engaged. It moves from robbery to betrayal to revenge without wasting time. Each scene pushes the story forward. There is always a sense that Parker is watching, planning, and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. That quiet tension is one of the film's strongest elements. Overall, Parker introduces us to a character who may break the law, but never breaks his principles. It sets up a story of survival, calculated revenge, and personal justice. The introduction pulls viewers into a world where trust is rare, betrayal is deadly, and one man refuses to let anyone rewrite his rules. Parker is a 2013 American action crime thriller directed by Taylor Hackford. The screenplay was written by John J. McLaughlin and is based on the novel Flashfire by Donald E. Westlake, who wrote the Parker series under the pen name Richard Stark. The film represents one of the few times the character Parker is actually called by his original name on screen, which makes it significant among adaptations of the novels. The movie blends modern action filmmaking with the classic hard-boiled crime tone of the books. The film stars Jason Statham in the lead role as Parker, a professional thief with a strict moral code. Jennifer Lopez co-stars as Leslie Rogers, a struggling real estate agent who becomes involved in Parker's mission. The supporting cast includes Michael Chiklis as Melander, the leader of the crew who betrays Parker. Other cast members include Wendell Pierce as Carlson, Clifton Collins Jr. as Ross, Bobby Cannavale as Jake Fernandez, Patti LuPone as Ascension, and Nick Nolte as Hurley, Parker's trusted mentor and connection in the criminal world. Parker was produced by Sidney Kimmel, Les Alexander, Stephen Chasman, and Taylor Hackford. It was distributed by Film District in the United States and released on January 25, 2013. The film has a runtime of approximately 118 minutes, making it just under 2 hours long. It was rated R due to strong violence, language, and some sexual content, which fits the mature and gritty tone of the story. The movie was filmed in several locations, primarily in New Orleans, Louisiana, and Palm Beach, Florida. The Florida setting plays a key role in the story, especially during the second half of the film, where a high-end jewelry auction becomes central to the plot. The bright, wealthy, and polished environment of Palm Beach creates a sharp contrast to Parker's dark and dangerous profession. The visual setting helps establish the clash between crime and high society. The cinematography was handled by J. Michael Murrow, who aimed to give the film a grounded and realistic feel. Rather than relying heavily on flashy camera tricks, the movie uses steady framing and clear action sequences to keep viewers focused on the characters and their choices. The editing was done by Mark Warner, who keeps the pacing tight and controlled, especially during action scenes and moments of tension. The musical score was composed by David Buckley. The music supports the suspense and intensity of the film without overpowering it. The score often builds tension quietly in the background, allowing the performances and story to take center stage. The sound design also emphasizes realism, especially during gunfights and physical confrontations. In terms of genre, Parker falls into the categories of action, crime, and thriller. It combines elements of heist films, revenge dramas, and character-driven crime stories. While it includes explosive moments and violent confrontations, the movie also focuses on strategy and planning. Much of the tension comes from Parker's careful thinking and calculated moves rather than non-stop action. The film was made with an estimated production budget of around $35 million. It aimed to appeal to fans of Jason Statham's previous action roles while also attracting viewers interested in crime thrillers with strong central characters. The marketing emphasized the combination of Statham's action style and Jennifer Lopez's dramatic presence. Parker stands out in Jason Statham's filmography because it presents a character who is more controlled and disciplined compared to some of his other roles. The film attempts to balance commercial action appeal with the darker tone of the original novels. It serves as both a modern action movie and a tribute to a long-running literary character. Overall, the basic information about Parker reveals a mid-budget Hollywood crime thriller built around a well-known fictional anti-hero. With an experienced director, a recognizable lead actor, and a story rooted in classic crime fiction, the film positions itself as a serious and stylish entry in the action genre. Parker is not your typical thief. He has rules, and those rules are the only things separating him from the monsters he often works beside. He doesn't steal from the poor, and he doesn't hurt innocent people. That code is what defines him. When his longtime mentor, Hurley, approaches him with a job, Parker listens carefully. Hurley needs him for a 5-man heist, but there's a catch. The rest of the crew are strangers. The team consists of Melander, the confident and calculating leader, Carlson, cool and observant, Ross, unpredictable, and Hardwick, young and eager to prove himself. Their target is bold, the Ohio State Fair's weekly ticket sales. Every day, mountains of cash flow into a central counting room guarded by light private security. By the end of the week, the safes hold millions before the money is transported out on Sunday. The plan is simple but dangerous. Storm the counting room, take control, and crack the safes with blowtorches. On the night of the robbery, everything moves with precision. They overpower security, lock down the room, and slice through steel doors, pulling out stacks upon stacks of small bills. In total, they walk away with $1.5 million. It should have been clean. It should have been perfect. But Hardwick makes a reckless change to Parker's carefully crafted plan, and that one decision results in an unnecessary death. Parker is furious. His code has been broken. Innocent blood has been spilled. Back with the crew, Melander tries to smooth things over. He tempts Parker with another job, something far bigger. A jewel heist worth $50 million. Each man would earn $2 million apiece. But Parker refuses. He won't work with men who don't respect the rules. Melander, however, needs Parker's share of the Ohio money to finance the bigger operation. And in this world, loose ends don't get left alive. On a deserted stretch of highway, Melander gives the order. Hardwick pulls the trigger. Parker is shot and left bleeding on the side of the road, presumed dead. But Parker doesn't die so easily. Against all odds, he survives. A humble family of tomato farmers finds him barely clinging to life and rushes him to the hospital. Even wounded, Parker's instincts take over. He chokes out a male nurse, steals his uniform, and slips away before anyone can question him. Weak but driven, he robs a check-cashing store for quick cash, shooting the owner in the leg when he resists. He steals a car and disappears, his only focus now revenge. Hully directs him toward New Orleans, where Parker tracks down Hardwick's brother. That lead sends him further, to Palm Beach, Florida. That's where Melander and the crew are hiding, preparing for their massive jewel auction heist. Parker tells Hurley he's going after them, not just for the money, but for the betrayal. Hurley warns him. The crew has mob connections. Hardwick's uncle, Danziger, is a powerful Chicago mob boss. If Parker pushes this, it could endanger everyone he loves, including Hurley's daughter Claire, Parker's girlfriend. But Parker has already made up his mind. Meanwhile, the crew learns Parker survived. Panic spreads quickly. Melander contacts his underworld allies and hires a professional hitman named Kroll. Cold, efficient, and deadly, Kroll is tasked with finishing what they started. He tracks down Claire, attempting to kidnap her as leverage. She barely escapes and goes into hiding at a remote fish camp. Parker, now in Palm Beach, adopts a new identity, Daniel Parmitt, a wealthy Texas oilman looking to buy luxury real estate. This is where he crosses paths with Leslie Rogers, a struggling real estate agent desperate for a big commission. Recently divorced and stuck living with her mother, Leslie sees Parker as her golden ticket. But Parker isn't interested in just any property. He focuses on one particular mansion rented by a man named Rodrigo. Leslie senses something off. Rodrigo is actually Melander, hiding in plain sight with his crew as they prepare for the jewel auction. As Leslie spends more time around Parker, her curiosity deepens. When she runs a credit check, she discovers Daniel Parmitt doesn't exist. Confronting him would be risky, but Leslie is desperate. Instead of exposing him, she offers a deal. She knows Palm Beach. She knows the layout, the neighborhoods, the habits of the wealthy elite. If Parker cuts her in, she'll help him. Suspicious, Parker forces her to strip to ensure she isn't wired. Once satisfied, he reveals the truth. There's a jewel auction coming up, and he intends to rob the robbers. Leslie sees her opportunity. If she plays this right, she could change her life forever. A spark of attraction flickers between them. She kisses him, hoping for more, but Parker pulls away. His heart belongs to Claire. The stage is set. The crew prepares for the auction, disguised as movers. Parker waits in the shadows, patient and relentless. The betrayal has lit a fire inside him, and he won't stop until the men who left him for dead pay in full. As the jewel auction approaches, tension tightens around Palm Beach like a coiled spring ready to snap. Melander and his crew move with calculated confidence, blending in as professional movers while they map out every detail of the auction house. Their plan is intricate. The jewels worth $50 million will be displayed, auctioned to elite buyers, then transported under tight security. But Melander intends to intercept them before they ever reach their final destination. Meanwhile, Parker watches from the shadows, studying their patterns, learning their rhythm. He doesn't want the jewels themselves, he wants Melander. Every step he takes is measured, even though his body is still recovering from the gunshot wound that nearly killed him. Leslie, now fully aware that she's entangled in something far bigger than real estate deals, balances fear with ambition. She knows Parker is dangerous, but she also knows he operates with a code. That code strangely reassures her. However, the danger escalates when Kroll, the hired hitman, arrives in Palm Beach. Unlike the others, Kroll is methodical and relentless. He quickly traces Parker's trail and begins closing in. One night, he attacks. What follows is brutal and unforgiving. In a savage confrontation inside Leslie's property, Kroll and Parker engage in a vicious fight that spills across balconies and through glass. Kroll stabs Parker through the hand, pinning him momentarily in agony. Blood pours freely, but Parker refuses to fall. Using sheer determination, he fights back, and the struggle ends when Kroll is thrown from a balcony, crashing to his death below. The incident draws attention. By morning, Palm Beach Sheriff's Deputy Jake Fernandez begins asking questions. Leslie, shaken and terrified, must play ignorant. She claims Daniel Parmit was nothing more than a fleeting client who wasted her time. But the danger hasn't passed. At work, Leslie sees video footage online of Kroll's fatal fall, recorded by curious bystanders. Reality hits her hard. This isn't a fantasy adventure. People are dying. When she returns home, she finds Parker bleeding and weak, hiding in her house. Claire has arrived secretly to stitch up his wounds. The sight devastates Leslie. She had begun imagining a different future with Parker, but Claire's presence makes it clear she was never part of his real life. Claire leaves again for safety, returning to the fish camp, while Parker pushes forward despite his injuries. The jewel auction proceeds exactly as Melander planned. The crew executes the robbery flawlessly, overpowering security and escaping with the jewels before anyone can react. They flee by swimming through the water to their rented mansion, confident that Parker is either dead or too weak to interfere. But Parker is always one step ahead. Injured yet unyielding, he infiltrates the mansion before they arrive. He sabotages their weapons, disabling them and hiding one loaded gun under a table as a contingency. Leslie, worried about Parker, impulsively goes to the mansion. Her curiosity nearly costs her everything. She's caught by the crew and dragged inside. Melander suspects she's connected to Parker. Carlson begins to intimidate and molest her, asserting dominance while the others watch. Fear floods the room. But Leslie notices the gun Parker hid earlier. In a sudden burst of courage and desperation, she grabs it and shoots Carlson multiple times, killing him. Chaos erupts. Parker emerges, confronting Melander face to face. The fight is raw and personal. These men betrayed him, shot him, left him for dead. Now it's time to settle the score. One by one, the crew falls. Ross is killed. Hardwick meets his end. Finally, Parker and Melander clash in a brutal showdown. Parker stabs him and finishes him with gunfire, ending the betrayal once and for all. Silence fills the house. The jewels are theirs. But Parker doesn't take everything. He arranges for Leslie to receive her share, honoring the deal they made. It's not romance, but it's respect. Leslie realizes she never truly had a chance at love with him. Their connection was forged in danger, not destiny. They part ways quietly without promises. Parker ensures the jewels are hidden and converted safely. 6 months later, he travels to Chicago. There's one final loose end, Danziger, the mob boss who sanctioned the hit against him. Parker walks into the lion's den without hesitation. In a swift and decisive act, he kills Danziger, severing the mob's reach and eliminating any future threats to Claire or Hurley. Justice, in Parker's world, is delivered personally. With Melander's crew eliminated and Danziger permanently silenced, Parker finally restores balance to his world. But unlike ordinary criminals driven by greed, Parker's actions are never just about money. They are about order, fairness within chaos, and honoring his own rigid moral code. After the bloodshed in Palm Beach and Chicago, he doesn't celebrate. He simply moves forward. The jewels from the auction are quietly processed through channels known only to professionals like Hurley. Fences are contacted, stones are separated, settings dismantled, and the fortune is converted into clean cash spread carefully to avoid suspicion. Leslie receives exactly what she was promised. No tricks, no excuses. For her, the money represents escape. A new apartment. Freedom from her mother's suffocating condo. A second chance at life without depending on unreliable men or empty dreams. Though she once imagined something more with Parker, she understands now that he belongs to a different world. A world of rules, danger, and constant movement. A year passes. Life appears calm on the surface. Then one day, Leslie receives a large package delivered to her door. Inside are thousands upon thousands of dollar bills, stacked neatly. There's no note, no explanation, but she doesn't need one. Parker hasn't forgotten her. Perhaps it's gratitude for her courage. Perhaps it's his way of ensuring she never struggles again. Either way, it changes her life permanently. Meanwhile, far from Palm Beach, the humble tomato farmers who once found Parker bleeding on the roadside are telling their own story. They speak of the stranger they rescued, a man barely alive who never gave his name. Not long after his disappearance, their fortunes changed dramatically. Money arrived, enough to transform their struggling farm into a thriving operation. They credit the mysterious man, believing he was some kind of angel sent to test their kindness. In their eyes, helping a wounded stranger brought them unexpected blessings. And in a way, they're not wrong. Parker may not be an angel, but he repays debts. Boys, that's the core of who he is. He steals, he fights. He kills when necessary. But he follows his own code with unwavering discipline. He doesn't harm the innocent without reason. He doesn't forget those who help him. He doesn't tolerate betrayal. Throughout his journey, Parker never pretends to be a hero. Yet compared to the ruthless men he eliminates, he almost seems like one. Melander broke the code when he ordered Parker's execution. Hardwick broke it when he caused unnecessary bloodshed at the fair. Carlson crossed it when he threatened Leslie. Danziger broke it by targeting someone Parker loved. Each violation carried consequences. In Parker's universe, justice isn't delivered by courts or juries. It's delivered by calculated retaliation. What makes Parker compelling isn't just his physical toughness or strategic brilliance. It's his restraint. Even when Leslie kissed him, offering companionship and perhaps something deeper, he stopped. Loyalty to Claire outweighed temptation. Even when Hurley urged him to walk away and simply take his share of the Ohio money, Parker chose to confront betrayal head-on. Not out of ego, but out of principle. In the criminal underworld, reputation is survival. Letting betrayal stand would invite more of it. By eliminating Melander and Danziger, Parker sends a clear message. Cross him, and there will be no second chance. Yet despite the violence, there's a strange humanity running beneath his actions. He protects Claire fiercely. He ensures Leslie's future. He rewards the farmers who saved his life. He never targets those who can't afford loss. In the end, Parker walks alone. There are no celebrations, no dramatic speeches, no grand displays of wealth. Just a man continuing down a road defined by his own uncompromising rules. Somewhere out there, another job waits. Another carefully selected target. Another crew that will either respect the code or suffer the consequences. And as the farmers finish telling their story about the mysterious stranger who changed their lives, we're left with one final image. A man moving through the world like a ghost, neither villain nor hero, but something in between. A professional thief guided by a moral compass only he truly understands. In Parker's world, loyalty is everything, betrayal is fatal, and kindness, when shown, is always repaid. Parker follows a clear and structured narrative that fits perfectly within the crime thriller genre. The story moves in a mostly linear direction, but it is divided into strong sections that shape the emotional and dramatic journey of the main character. The film's structure can be understood in 4 major movements: the opening heist, the betrayal and survival, the infiltration and planning phase, and finally the revenge and resolution. Each section builds naturally into the next, creating a steady narrative flow that keeps the audience engaged. The first act opens with immediate action. Instead of slowly introducing characters through long conversations, the film throws the audience straight into the state fair robbery. This choice is important because it establishes tone, stakes, and character dynamics quickly. Through the heist, we see how professional and disciplined Parker is compared to the rest of the crew. The robbery sequence acts as both an action hook and a character introduction. The pacing here is tight and controlled, showing teamwork, precision, and underlying tension among the criminals. After the successful robbery, the narrative shifts into the betrayal phase. This is the emotional turning point of the first act. Melander's decision to pressure Parker into joining a bigger job introduces conflict. Parker's refusal is not dramatic or loud. It is calm and firm, which reinforces his moral code. The betrayal scene itself is sudden and brutal. Structurally, this moment serves as the inciting incident that launches the main storyline. Without the betrayal, there would be no revenge arc. The attempted murder pushes the narrative into its second major movement. The survival segment slows the pacing slightly. Parker's recovery allows the audience to process what happened. This part of the structure gives space for character motivation to deepen. Instead of rushing back into action, the film allows Parker to gather information and plan carefully. His conversation with Hurley provides exposition without feeling forced. Through dialogue, the audience learns about the new heist in Palm Beach and understands Parker's next goal. This section transitions the story from reaction to strategy. The third movement of the narrative takes place in Palm Beach. This section is more methodical and suspense-driven. Parker adopts a fake identity and begins observing his former crew from a distance. The pacing becomes more deliberate. Instead of constant action, the story focuses on infiltration and preparation. Leslie Rogers enters the narrative here, adding a secondary character arc that intersects with Parker's mission. Her involvement creates new emotional tension and occasional humor, which balances the otherwise serious tone. Structurally, this middle portion functions as a build-up. The audience knows a confrontation is coming, but the film delays it to increase suspense. Parker studies the jewelry auction, tracks Melander's crew, and waits for the right moment. This patience reflects his personality. The narrative flow mirrors Parker's mindset: calculated, controlled, and strategic. The fourth and final movement begins with the execution of the Palm Beach jewelry heist. The story briefly shifts focus back to Melander and his crew as they complete the robbery. This technique allows the audience to see both sides of the conflict. Once the heist is complete, the pacing accelerates again. Parker steps in to confront the crew, and the film moves into direct action and resolution. The final confrontations are structured as a series of escalating encounters. Parker fights individual members of the crew before facing Melander himself. This gradual elimination increases dramatic tension. Each fight feels personal and purposeful. The climax occurs when Parker confronts Melander and demands his rightful share. The resolution is straightforward. Parker restores balance according to his code and then exits quietly. Overall, the narrative flow of Parker is clean and easy to follow. It does not rely on complicated twists or non-linear storytelling. Instead, it depends on clear motivations and logical progression. The structure mirrors the personality of its main character: disciplined, organized, and efficient. The steady pacing, combined with carefully placed action sequences, creates a story that moves confidently from betrayal to revenge without losing focus. In Parker, character development is centered primarily around the title character, played by Jason Statham. Unlike many crime thrillers that focus heavily on plot twists, this film builds its emotional weight through personal codes, loyalty, betrayal, and transformation. While Parker remains consistent in many ways, the journey he takes still reveals layers of his personality, values, and internal strength. Supporting characters, especially Leslie Rogers, also experience meaningful growth that shapes the emotional side of the story. Parker begins the film as a disciplined professional thief who lives by strict personal rules. He does not steal from ordinary people. He does not harm the innocent. He does not betray partners, and he expects the same loyalty in return. In the opening heist, his calm behavior, sharp focus, and controlled actions immediately separate him from the rest of the crew. At this stage, Parker is confident and in control of his world. He trusts the system he operates in because it follows agreed rules. The betrayal marks the first major turning point in his character arc. When Melander and the crew shoot him and leave him for dead, Parker is not just physically wounded. His trust in professional criminal partnerships is shattered. However, instead of becoming reckless or emotional, he becomes even more focused. His arc is not about becoming a different person. It is about reinforcing who he already is. The betrayal strengthens his commitment to his personal code. He does not seek chaos or blind revenge. He seeks balance and justice according to his rules. During his recovery, Parker shows resilience. He survives not because of luck alone but because of determination and mental strength. This phase highlights his endurance and patience. Many revenge-driven characters act out of anger, but Parker remains strategic. His development lies in his calm response to extreme betrayal. He channels his anger into planning rather than emotional outbursts. When Parker arrives in Palm Beach, his character shifts into a more layered role. He adopts a fake identity and enters a world of wealth and luxury. Here, we see his adaptability. He can move between criminal underworld spaces and high society environments without losing composure. This flexibility shows growth in his ability to manipulate situations beyond physical force. His intelligence becomes just as important as his strength. Leslie Rogers, played by Jennifer Lopez, experiences a more visible character arc. At the beginning, she is struggling financially and emotionally. She feels unsuccessful in her real estate career and disconnected from the glamorous world she tries to sell to clients. When she meets Parker, she initially sees him as a potential wealthy buyer who might solve her financial problems. Her motivation is survival and ambition. As Leslie becomes involved in Parker's mission, her fear is clear. She is not trained for danger. She does not live by a criminal code. However, as the story progresses, she grows braver. She chooses to help Parker even when she understands the risks. Her arc moves from desperation to courage. She gains confidence and begins to take control of her own choices. By the end of the film, she is no longer simply reacting to events. She is actively participating. Melander, played by Michael Chiklis, represents the opposite side of Parker's moral code. His arc is driven by greed. At the beginning, he appears as a capable leader. However, once money becomes the focus, his insecurity grows. He fears losing control and chooses betrayal to protect his ambition. His character does not evolve positively. Instead, he declines morally. His greed ultimately leads to his downfall. Harley, played by Nick Nolte, remains steady throughout the film. He serves as a mentor figure and a bridge between Parker and the criminal network. His consistency reinforces Parker's stability. Harley's presence reminds the audience that Parker's code is part of a larger system of professional respect. Overall, Parker presents character development through reinforcement rather than transformation. Parker does not change his beliefs. Instead, the story tests them. Leslie grows in courage and self-worth, while Melander collapses under greed. The arcs revolve around loyalty, integrity, and personal rules in a world where trust is rare. The performances in Parker play a major role in shaping the tone and emotional weight of the film. While the story is built around action and revenge, it is the actors who give depth to the characters and make the conflict feel personal. The cast delivers performances that fit the grounded, serious style of the movie, avoiding exaggeration and instead focusing on controlled intensity. Jason Statham leads the film as Parker, and his performance is built on restraint. Unlike some of his more explosive action roles, here he plays the character with quiet confidence. His body language speaks louder than his dialogue. He often communicates through silence, steady eye contact, and controlled movements. This choice fits the character perfectly because Parker is a man who thinks before he acts. Statham avoids overplaying emotion. Even after being betrayed and nearly killed, he does not show dramatic rage. Instead, his anger is internal, visible through subtle facial expressions and tightened posture. Physically, Statham delivers convincing fight sequences. His action scenes feel realistic because he performs them with precision rather than flashy movements. The fights look brutal and close, which adds to the grounded tone of the film. However, what stands out most is how he balances physical toughness with mental sharpness. He portrays Parker as intelligent and strategic, not just strong. This layered performance keeps the character from becoming one-dimensional. Jennifer Lopez as Leslie Rogers provides a different type of performance. Her role requires emotional vulnerability. Leslie is not a criminal or a fighter. She is a woman struggling in her professional life, feeling overlooked and frustrated. Lopez plays her with a mix of insecurity and determination. In the beginning, her expressions show stress and disappointment, especially in scenes involving her career. When she meets Parker, her curiosity and hope are believable. As the story progresses, Lopez shifts her performance from fear to courage. During tense moments, especially when she realizes the danger around her, her reactions feel natural. She does not suddenly become fearless. Instead, her bravery grows slowly. This gradual change makes her arc believable. Lopez also adds subtle humor in certain scenes, which helps balance the serious tone of the movie. Her chemistry with Statham is based more on tension and mutual understanding than romance, which fits the story's focus. Michael Chiklis delivers a strong performance as Melander, the antagonist. He portrays the character with confidence and hidden insecurity. At first, Melander appears charismatic and in control. Chiklis uses steady speech and relaxed posture to show leadership. However, once greed takes over, his performance shifts. Small changes in tone and facial expression reveal paranoia and fear of losing authority. His betrayal of Parker is not played as pure evil but as desperate ambition. This layered portrayal makes him a believable villain rather than a cartoonish one. Nick Nolte as Hurley brings experience and calm presence to the film. His performance is understated but important. He plays Hurley as a seasoned criminal who understands the rules of the game. Nolte's voice, rough and steady, adds authenticity. He does not need dramatic scenes to leave an impression. His conversations with Parker feel natural and grounded, giving the story a sense of history and connection. The supporting cast, including Wendell Pierce and Clifton Collins Jr., contribute effectively in their limited screen time. They portray members of Melander's crew with enough personality to make the conflict meaningful. Their performances support the tension without distracting from the main storyline. Overall, the acting in Parker is consistent and controlled. The performances avoid over-the-top drama and instead focus on realism. Jason Statham anchors the film with quiet strength, Jennifer Lopez adds emotional depth, and Michael Chiklis provides a believable antagonist. Together, they create a performance-driven crime thriller that feels grounded and focused. Parker is directed by Taylor Hackford, a filmmaker known for character-driven dramas and strong emotional storytelling. In this film, Hackford brings a controlled and grounded vision to what could have easily become a loud, exaggerated action movie. Instead of focusing only on explosions and spectacle, he shapes the movie around tension, character discipline, and moral conflict. His direction gives the story a serious tone and keeps the film rooted in realism. One of the most noticeable elements of Hackford's direction is restraint. The action scenes are intense, but they are not overly stylized. Fights feel physical and close. Gunshots sound heavy and dangerous. There is a sense that every violent act has consequences. Hackford avoids flashy camera spins or unrealistic stunts. This choice supports the personality of Parker, who is calm, calculated, and efficient. The direction mirrors the character's mindset. Hackford also focuses heavily on pacing. He divides the film into clear sections and allows each part to breathe. The opening heist is sharp and efficient, immediately pulling the audience into the criminal world. The betrayal scene is handled with sudden brutality, creating emotional shock. After that, Hackford slows the story down during Parker's recovery. This slower section allows viewers to understand the character's motivation rather than rushing directly into revenge. This balance between speed and patience shows careful narrative control. Another important aspect of Hackford's vision is the contrast between environments. The first part of the film feels rough and grounded in working-class spaces like fairs, roads, and small towns. When the story moves to Palm Beach, the atmosphere shifts. Bright sunlight, luxury homes, and wealthy social circles dominate the screen. Hackford uses this contrast to highlight the difference between Parker's world and the world of extreme wealth. The director shows that greed exists everywhere, whether in small-time criminals or high-society elites. Hackford also gives space for character interaction. He allows conversations to unfold naturally. For example, scenes between Parker and Leslie Rogers are not rushed. Their dialogue builds tension slowly. The director does not force romance or dramatic emotion. Instead, he focuses on mutual understanding and quiet connection. This choice keeps the film aligned with its serious tone. The portrayal of violence is another example of Hackford's vision. He presents violence as direct and personal. Fight scenes are not choreographed like dance sequences. They are messy and intense. This grounded approach strengthens the realism of the film. The audience feels the weight of each punch and gunshot. Hackford avoids glamorizing crime. Even though Parker is the main character, the world he operates in is shown as dangerous and unforgiving. Hackford's direction also respects the source material. The Parker character comes from a long series of crime novels known for their hard, disciplined tone. Hackford maintains that spirit by keeping Parker emotionally reserved and morally strict. He does not turn the character into a typical action hero who makes jokes or dramatic speeches. Instead, he keeps Parker focused and serious. At the same time, Hackford makes the story accessible to modern audiences. The film has contemporary pacing, clear storytelling, and recognizable star power. He balances classic crime storytelling with modern action expectations. This balance is not easy, but Hackford handles it with steady control. Overall, Taylor Hackford's direction shapes Parker into a disciplined revenge thriller rather than a chaotic action spectacle. His vision emphasizes realism, character focus, and moral code over flashy style. By controlling tone, pacing, and environment, he ensures the film remains consistent from beginning to end. The cinematography of Parker, handled by J. Michael Moreau, plays a crucial role in shaping the grounded and realistic tone of the film. Instead of relying on flashy visuals or overly stylized camera tricks, the movie uses clean framing, natural lighting, and controlled camera movement to support the story. The visual style matches the personality of the main character: direct, focused, and efficient. One of the strongest elements of the cinematography is its realism. The camera often stays steady, allowing the audience to clearly see the action. During fight scenes, the framing is tight but not confusing. The viewer can follow every punch, movement, and reaction. There are no overly quick cuts or shaky shots that make the action hard to understand. This approach helps maintain tension while keeping the experience immersive and believable. Lighting is another important aspect of the film's visual design. In the early part of the movie, especially during the State Fair robbery, the lighting feels natural and slightly muted. The colors are grounded and somewhat dusty, reflecting the everyday setting of the fair. This creates an atmosphere that feels authentic and relatable. The environment does not look exaggerated or cinematic in a glossy way. Instead, it feels like a real place where crime can quietly happen. When the story shifts to Palm Beach, the visual tone changes noticeably. The cinematography becomes brighter and more polished. Sunlight reflects off luxury cars, white buildings, and high-end jewelry displays. The color palette includes warm gold tones, light blues, and clean whites. This brightness contrasts sharply with the darker and rougher settings from earlier scenes. The visual shift highlights the difference between Parker's criminal world and the wealthy society he enters. The film also uses framing to emphasize isolation. Parker is often shown alone in the frame, standing still while observing others. Wide shots place him at a distance, reinforcing his role as an outsider watching carefully before making a move. Close-up shots focus on his eyes and subtle expressions, showing internal calculation rather than loud emotion. This visual choice supports the character's quiet and strategic personality. Camera movement throughout the film is controlled and purposeful. Slow tracking shots follow Parker as he walks through buildings or observes targets. These movements build suspense without drawing attention to themselves. The cinematography avoids unnecessary style. Every movement of the camera feels intentional and connected to the story's pacing. The jewelry auction scenes are visually significant. The camera highlights sparkling gems, elegant outfits, and luxurious surroundings. Close-ups of expensive necklaces and rings emphasize the high stakes of the robbery. The contrast between beauty and criminal intent adds tension. The elegance of the setting makes the planned violence feel even more dramatic. Night scenes in the film are handled with careful balance. They are dark enough to create tension but not so dark that details disappear. Shadows are used to create suspense, especially during moments when Parker is watching or preparing to confront his enemies. The use of shadow reinforces the theme of secrecy and hidden motives. Overall, the visual style of Parker is clean, realistic, and controlled. The cinematography does not try to overpower the story. Instead, it quietly supports it. Through lighting, framing, and color contrast, the film visually communicates themes of isolation, discipline, and the clash between crime and wealth. The camera work remains consistent from beginning to end, reflecting the steady personality of the main character. The result is a crime thriller that looks polished but never exaggerated, stylish but never distracting. The editing and pacing of Parker play a major role in shaping the film's tension and overall viewing experience. Edited by Mark Warner, the movie follows a clean and controlled rhythm that reflects the personality of its main character. The film does not rush unnecessarily, nor does it linger too long on moments that do not serve the story. Instead, it maintains a steady flow that balances action, suspense, and character development. From the opening sequence, the editing establishes precision. The State Fair robbery is cut in a way that clearly shows the plan unfolding step by step. The audience understands where each character is positioned and how the robbery is executed. Quick cuts are used during tense moments, but they are never chaotic. The clarity of the editing allows viewers to follow the action without confusion. This clean structure builds trust between the film and the audience. After the heist, the pacing briefly slows during the discussion about the next robbery. This slower rhythm allows tension to grow naturally. When Parker refuses to join the larger job, the editing gives space for the conflict to develop. The betrayal scene is handled with sharp, sudden cuts that increase shock value. The moment Parker is shot feels abrupt and violent, matching the unexpected nature of the betrayal. Following this intense sequence, the film shifts into a slower phase as Parker recovers. The editing during this section becomes more patient. Scenes are allowed to breathe, and transitions are smoother. This deliberate pacing helps the audience understand Parker's physical and emotional recovery. It also builds anticipation for his return. Instead of immediately jumping into revenge, the film carefully sets up his next move. When Parker arrives in Palm Beach, the editing reflects a more methodical pace. Scenes often focus on observation and planning. The rhythm becomes quieter but remains tense. Cross-cutting is used effectively when showing Parker tracking his former crew. By moving between different locations and characters, the film creates suspense without revealing too much too quickly. This technique keeps viewers engaged as they wait for the confrontation. The jewelry auction sequence is edited with rising intensity. As the robbery unfolds, the cuts become quicker, but still controlled. The editing emphasizes timing and coordination. Once the heist is complete, the film transitions smoothly into the revenge phase. The pacing accelerates again as Parker confronts each member of the crew. The fight scenes are edited to maintain realism. There are no excessive jump cuts or confusing angles. Each movement is visible, making the action feel grounded and physical. One of the strengths of the editing is its consistency. The rhythm of the film mirrors Parker's mindset. He is calm, strategic, and precise, and the editing reflects those qualities. Even during high-action moments, the film avoids losing control. This steady pacing helps maintain tension without exhausting the audience. Transitions between scenes are smooth and logical. The film rarely uses flashy visual effects to move from one location to another. Instead, it relies on straightforward cuts that keep the focus on story progression. This approach strengthens the narrative flow and prevents distractions. Overall, the editing of Parker supports its disciplined tone. The pacing rises and falls at appropriate moments, creating a balance between action and character focus. By avoiding chaos and maintaining clarity, the film delivers a controlled thriller experience that stays engaging from beginning to end. The sound design, music, and overall audio experience in Parker play a subtle but powerful role in shaping the film's tension and atmosphere. Instead of overwhelming the audience with loud, constant background music, the film uses sound carefully and strategically. Every gunshot, footstep, and quiet pause is designed to support the grounded and realistic tone of the story. The score, composed by David Buckley, blends suspenseful themes with controlled intensity, matching the personality of the main character. One of the strongest aspects of the sound design is realism. During action scenes, the sounds feel raw and heavy. Gunshots are sharp and loud, with a realistic echo that reminds the audience of the danger involved. Punches and physical impacts during fight scenes sound solid and painful. There is no exaggerated or cartoonish effect added to make the action feel larger than life. This grounded audio approach makes every confrontation feel serious and personal. Silence is also used effectively throughout the film. In several scenes, especially when Parker is observing his enemies or planning his next move, the background music becomes minimal or disappears completely. This creates tension. The absence of sound forces viewers to focus on small details like breathing, footsteps, or distant background noise. These quiet moments make the sudden bursts of violence more impactful. David Buckley's musical score supports the suspense without dominating the scene. The music often builds slowly, using low tones and steady rhythms to increase tension. Instead of dramatic orchestral swells, the score stays controlled and restrained. This mirrors Parker's personality. He is not emotional or explosive without reason. The music reflects that calm but dangerous energy. During the opening heist at the state fair, the score adds urgency without distracting from the action. It moves in the background, enhancing the feeling of coordination and risk. When the betrayal occurs, the music shifts subtly, emphasizing shock and danger. However, it does not become overly dramatic. The restraint keeps the scene believable. In Palm Beach scenes, the sound design also highlights the contrast between environments. The wealthy setting includes softer background sounds, such as light conversation, distant ocean waves, and elegant event noise during the jewelry auction. These subtle sounds create a polished atmosphere. When violence enters this elegant world, the contrast becomes even stronger. Loud gunfire or intense physical fights feel shocking against the calm surroundings. Dialogue clarity is another important part of the film's sound design. Conversations are clean and easy to understand. The mixing ensures that voices remain clear even during tense scenes. This is important because much of the story relies on strategic conversations rather than constant action. Parker's calm and measured voice stands out, reinforcing his composed personality. The jewelry auction sequence demonstrates strong audio layering. Background chatter, subtle music, and the sound of movement create a realistic event atmosphere. When the robbery unfolds, the sound shifts quickly from controlled elegance to chaos. This change in audio heightens the tension and signals the turning point of the scene. Overall, the sound design and score in Parker focus on support rather than dominance. The film does not rely on loud music to create emotion. Instead, it uses balance. Silence builds suspense, realistic effects enhance action, and the musical score quietly strengthens tension. By maintaining this careful audio control, the film stays consistent with its grounded style. The sound world reflects Parker's disciplined and strategic nature, making the viewing experience immersive and intense without feeling exaggerated. The production design of Parker plays a crucial role in grounding the story in a believable world. Every location, set, and background detail reflects the themes of contrast, discipline, and social difference that run throughout the film. The movie moves between modest, rough environments and extremely wealthy settings, and the design team carefully builds each space to support the narrative. The visual world feels authentic rather than exaggerated, which strengthens the film's realistic tone. The opening sequence at the state fair is a strong example of effective production design. The fairground feels busy and lived in, filled with colorful booths, rides, and crowds. The setting is chaotic but familiar, which makes the robbery feel more dangerous. The design captures the everyday atmosphere of a public event. The worn textures of tents, metal structures, and service vehicles reflect a working-class environment. This space fits Parker's professional criminal world, where jobs are precise and practical rather than glamorous. After the betrayal, the film briefly moves to quieter, rural settings during Parker's recovery. The farmhouse environment is simple and understated. Wooden interiors, open land, and natural surroundings create a sense of isolation. This stripped-down setting contrasts sharply with the crowded fairground. It visually reinforces Parker's survival and return to focus. The simplicity of the location highlights his resilience and independence. When the story shifts to Palm Beach, the production design changes dramatically. The wealthy Florida setting is presented with clean lines, bright architecture, and luxurious details. Large waterfront homes, elegant interiors, and polished surfaces dominate the screen. The houses feature modern furniture, wide glass windows, and carefully arranged decor. These spaces represent money, status, and privilege. The sharp visual difference between this world and the earlier settings emphasizes the theme of social contrast. The jewelry auction location is particularly important. The event space is designed to feel exclusive and refined. Glass display cases showcase expensive jewels under focused lighting. The room layout allows characters to move discreetly, which supports the tension of the robbery. The elegant environment makes the criminal activity feel even more intense. The contrast between beauty and violence creates strong visual drama. Leslie Rogers' personal spaces also reflect her character. Her apartment and workplace show signs of financial struggle. The design includes modest furniture and practical decoration. Nothing appears overly polished. These details help communicate her position in life without heavy dialogue. Her surroundings feel realistic and relatable, reinforcing her emotional vulnerability. Vehicles in the film are also part of the production design. Parker's choices in transportation are practical and understated. Meanwhile, luxury cars appear in Palm Beach scenes, reinforcing wealth and status. Even these small visual details contribute to the story's themes of contrast and identity. Costume design works closely with set design to complete the visual environment. Parker's wardrobe is simple and functional, often consisting of neutral colors and clean lines. When he adopts a false wealthy identity, his clothing shifts to more refined styles, helping him blend into high society. The wealthy characters wear tailored outfits and formal attire during the auction event, matching the elegant surroundings. Overall, the production design in Parker avoids flashy excess. It focuses on authenticity and contrast. Every setting feels believable and supports character development. From dusty fairgrounds to luxury coastal mansions, the environments reflect the moral and social differences within the story. By carefully designing each location to match tone and theme, the film creates a cohesive visual world that strengthens the narrative. The contrast between rough criminal spaces and polished wealth becomes a visual representation of greed, ambition, and discipline. In Parker, visual effects are used in a restrained and supportive way rather than as a central attraction. The film relies much more on practical effects, real stunts, and grounded action than heavy computer-generated imagery. This decision fits the overall tone of the movie, which focuses on realism and discipline instead of spectacle. The effects work quietly in the background to enhance tension and authenticity. One of the most noticeable strengths of the film is its commitment to practical stunt work. The fight scenes are performed with physical choreography that looks realistic and painful. Instead of exaggerated slow motion or impossible movements, the action feels close and intense. Jason Statham, known for performing many of his own stunts, brings credibility to these sequences. The punches, throws, and impacts appear genuine because they are filmed in tight spaces with real physical contact. The practical approach makes each fight feel personal and dangerous. Gunfight scenes also rely heavily on practical effects. Muzzle flashes, bullet impacts, and physical reactions are presented with realism. The sound design works alongside the visual effects to create a believable experience. When bullets strike walls or vehicles, debris and sparks are visible, adding to the authenticity. These effects are not overly dramatic, but are strong enough to communicate danger clearly. The car-related sequences in the film are handled with minimal digital enhancement. Instead of fast, unrealistic driving scenes filled with computer-generated crashes, the film keeps vehicle action grounded. Cars move at believable speeds, and collisions feel solid rather than exaggerated. This restrained use of visual effects supports the film's realistic tone. There are likely subtle digital effects used to enhance certain backgrounds or remove safety equipment from stunt shots, but they are not obvious. The goal seems to be invisibility. When visual effects are done well in this way, the audience does not notice them. Instead, viewers remain focused on the story and characters. This invisible style fits the disciplined personality of Parker himself. The burning car scene after Parker is shot is an example of combined practical and visual effects. The flames and smoke appear real, creating a sense of immediate danger. The scene is intense but controlled. The fire effects look authentic rather than over the top. This balance ensures the moment feels serious without becoming dramatic spectacle. The jewelry auction robbery also uses practical staging rather than flashy digital tricks. The environment, display cases, and props are real physical objects. When characters move through the space, break glass, or interact with items, everything feels tangible. The realism increases tension because the audience believes in the physical space. Blood effects and injury details are also handled with moderation. The film does not rely on extreme graphic imagery. Instead, it presents injuries clearly but without unnecessary focus. This choice keeps the movie serious and grounded without pushing it into shock value territory. Overall, Parker chooses practical effects as its primary tool for action and realism. Visual effects are present but subtle, supporting rather than dominating. This approach strengthens the film's identity as a disciplined crime thriller. The physical nature of the fights and stunts enhances immersion, making the audience feel closer to the danger. By avoiding excessive digital spectacle, the movie stays true to its character-driven focus. The effects serve the story instead of distracting from it, maintaining consistency with the grounded tone established from the beginning. The dialogue and screenplay of Parker, written by John J. McLaughlin and based on the novel Flashfire by Donald E. Westlake, play a central role in shaping the film's disciplined and grounded tone. Unlike many action thrillers that rely heavily on loud speeches or clever one-liners, this script focuses on controlled conversations, subtle tension, and character-driven exchanges. The writing reflects the personality of Parker himself: direct, efficient, and precise. One of the defining features of the screenplay is its economy of words. Parker does not speak unnecessarily. His lines are short, clear, and purposeful. He rarely explains himself in long emotional speeches. Instead, he communicates his intentions through firm and simple statements. This minimalistic dialogue strengthens his image as a professional who does not waste time or energy. When he says something, it carries weight because he does not speak often. The early scenes during the State Fair robbery demonstrate strong writing in terms of clarity and tension. The crew's dialogue is practical and focused on the job. Instructions are sharp and direct. There is no exaggerated drama. This approach establishes the tone of professionalism within the criminal world. At the same time, small hints of personality differences appear in how each character speaks. Melander's tone suggests ambition and hidden insecurity, while Parker remains calm and measured. The betrayal scene is another example of effective dialogue. The conflict between Parker and Melander is not built on shouting or emotional outbursts. Instead, the tension grows through disagreement about principles. Parker's refusal to invest in the larger heist is expressed simply and firmly. Melander's frustration comes through controlled but increasingly aggressive lines. The writing allows the audience to feel the shift from partnership to hostility without dramatic exaggeration. As the story moves to Palm Beach, the screenplay introduces a different tone through Leslie Rogers. Her dialogue contrasts with Parker's. She speaks more openly, sometimes nervously, and occasionally with humor. Her words reveal insecurity about her career and social status. This contrast between Parker's quiet intensity and Leslie's emotional openness creates interesting character chemistry. Their conversations are layered with tension, curiosity, and gradual trust. The screenplay also balances exposition carefully. Information about the jewelry auction and the criminal plan is delivered naturally through conversations rather than forced explanation. When Parker meets Hurley, the dialogue feels like a conversation between two professionals who already understand each other. The script avoids heavy backstory dumps. Instead, it trusts the audience to follow along with context clues. Humor in the film is subtle and situational. It mostly comes from awkward or tense interactions rather than intentional jokes. This restrained use of humor prevents the film from losing its serious tone. Even lighter moments serve character development rather than distraction. Another strength of the screenplay is consistency. Parker's code remains central to every conversation. Whether he is speaking to allies or enemies, his words reflect his rules. He does not threaten unnecessarily, and he does not beg. When he confronts Melander in the final act, the dialogue focuses on fairness and agreement rather than emotional revenge. This reinforces the theme of personal justice. Overall, the dialogue in Parker supports its grounded style. The screenplay avoids flashy language and instead focuses on clarity, tension, and character consistency. Conversations feel realistic and purposeful, strengthening the disciplined tone of the film from beginning to end. Parker firmly belongs to the crime thriller and action genre, but what makes it interesting is how carefully it handles those elements. Instead of becoming a loud, explosive action spectacle, the film maintains a controlled and grounded tone throughout most of its runtime. The genre execution reflects discipline, much like the personality of the main character. At the same time, the film includes subtle tone shifts that help keep the narrative engaging without losing focus. From the beginning, the movie establishes itself as a heist thriller. The opening State Fair robbery sets clear expectations. The planning, execution, and escape follow classic crime genre structure. The tension builds through coordination and risk rather than chaos. The scene delivers suspense without exaggerated action. This approach signals to the audience that the film will focus on strategy and professionalism rather than non-stop explosions. When the betrayal happens, the tone shifts from heist thriller to revenge drama. This is the first major tonal transition. The robbery atmosphere is replaced with personal conflict and survival. The mood becomes darker and more serious. The attempted murder of Parker adds emotional weight. However, even in this shift, the film avoids melodrama. The revenge theme is presented with restraint. Parker's motivation is not emotional rage but moral balance. This keeps the tone steady and mature. As the story moves to Palm Beach, another subtle tone shift occurs. The environment becomes brighter and more polished. The setting introduces elements of social satire and class contrast. Wealth, luxury homes, and elite social events create a different atmosphere compared to the rough criminal spaces earlier in the film. For brief moments, there is a slight shift towards situational humor, especially through Leslie Rogers' character. Her awkward attempts to navigate high society and her reactions to Parker's intensity bring lighter touches to the narrative. Despite these lighter elements, the film never turns into a comedy or romantic story. The tone remains controlled. Even the relationship between Parker and Leslie is handled with restraint. There is tension and mutual respect, but no dramatic romantic storyline takes over the plot. This careful balance prevents the movie from drifting away from its crime thriller identity. The jewelry auction sequence marks a return to full thriller mode. The tension builds steadily as the robbery unfolds. The tone becomes focused and suspenseful again. Cross-cutting between Parker's surveillance and the crew's execution reinforces the high-stakes atmosphere. The film maintains realism rather than exaggeration. The violence that follows is direct and intense, but not stylized for entertainment alone. One of the film's strengths in genre execution is its consistency. While tone shifts occur between heist, revenge, and subtle character drama, they feel natural. The movie never feels confused about what it wants to be. It does not attempt to become a large-scale action blockbuster, nor does it turn into a deep psychological drama. Instead, it stays within the boundaries of a disciplined crime thriller. The final confrontations reinforce this controlled genre approach. The fights are physical and grounded. There are no exaggerated hero moments or dramatic speeches. Parker demands his share calmly, reinforcing the film's central theme of personal code and fairness. The ending maintains the same serious tone established at the start. Overall, Parker executes its genre with balance and control. It blends heist elements, revenge drama, and subtle character moments without losing focus. The tone shifts are measured and purposeful, helping the story move smoothly while maintaining consistency. The result is a crime thriller that feels steady, mature, and focused from beginning to end. Parker may appear on the surface to be a straightforward action thriller, but beneath the fights and heists, the film explores several strong themes. At its core, the movie is about personal code, loyalty, betrayal, greed, survival, and justice. These themes drive the story forward and shape every major decision made by the characters. The most important theme in the film is the idea of a personal moral code. Parker is a criminal, but he operates under strict rules. He does not steal from ordinary working people. He does not hurt those who are not involved. Most importantly, he does not betray his partners, and he expects the same loyalty in return. This code defines his identity. It separates him from criminals who are driven purely by greed. Throughout the movie, every action Parker takes is guided by this code. Even when seeking revenge, he does not act blindly. He simply wants what he was promised. Loyalty and betrayal are directly connected to this theme. The betrayal by Melander and the crew is not just about money. It represents the breaking of trust. In the world of professional crime shown in the film, trust is essential. Once it is broken, everything collapses. The moment Parker is shot and left for dead, the story becomes about restoring balance. His revenge is not emotional chaos. It is about correcting a violation of agreement. Greed is another central theme. Melander's decision to push for a larger robbery and force Parker to invest shows how greed can destroy partnerships. At first, the crew works professionally and successfully. However, once the possibility of more money appears, discipline disappears. Melander allows ambition and fear to control him. His greed leads to violence and eventually to his downfall. The film clearly suggests that greed, when uncontrolled, leads to self-destruction. Survival is also a major message. Parker survives not only physically after being shot but mentally. He does not let anger cloud his judgment. Instead, he regains strength, gathers information, and plans carefully. His survival represents resilience and focus. The film shows that discipline and patience are stronger than reckless revenge. Another theme is class contrast and social difference. The shift from working-class environments to wealthy Palm Beach settings highlights the gap between different worlds. Crime exists in both spaces, but it takes different forms. The jewelry auction scene shows how extreme wealth attracts risk and corruption. The film subtly suggests that greed and ambition are not limited to street criminals. They also exist in high society. Leslie Rogers' character introduces the theme of personal worth and self-respect. She begins the film feeling unsuccessful and overlooked. Through her involvement with Parker, she gains confidence and courage. Her growth reflects the message that strength can develop through difficult situations. She learns to take risks and make independent decisions rather than waiting for success to come to her. Justice in Parker is not legal justice. It is personal justice. Parker does not go to the police. He does not seek public revenge. He enforces his own balance. The film presents a world where legal systems are distant and individuals solve problems through their own rules. While this does not suggest that crime is good, it frames Parker as a man who believes in fairness within his chosen world. Overall, the core message of Parker is about living by principles, even in a corrupt environment. It shows that discipline, loyalty, and integrity matter, even among criminals. At the same time, it warns that greed and betrayal lead to destruction. While Parker presents itself as a straightforward crime thriller, the film includes layers of symbolism and subtle meaning beneath its surface. These symbolic elements reinforce the themes of loyalty, greed, identity, and control. Though the movie does not openly explain these deeper meanings, they are present in its settings, character choices, and visual contrasts. One of the strongest symbols in the film is money itself. Money is not just a reward or a goal. It represents trust and agreement. In the beginning, the robbery at the state fair is completed professionally. The money earned from that job stands for teamwork and shared understanding. However, when Melander demands that Parker invest his share into a larger robbery, the meaning of money shifts. It becomes a symbol of greed and broken trust. The conflict is not only about wealth but about the violation of an agreement. Money, in this sense, represents loyalty. Once that loyalty is broken, the partnership collapses. The state fair setting also carries symbolic meaning. A fair is typically associated with fun, innocence, and community. By placing a robbery in this environment, the film subtly suggests that crime exists beneath ordinary life. The bright lights and colorful booths contrast with the hidden criminal plan. This setting symbolizes the idea that danger and betrayal can exist even in places that seem safe and joyful. Palm Beach, with its luxury homes and jewelry auction, symbolizes wealth and excess. The bright sunlight, polished surfaces, and sparkling gems reflect not just financial success but also temptation. The jewelry itself becomes a symbol of greed. These expensive objects are beautiful but fragile. They attract desire and risk. The high society environment hides corruption beneath elegance, suggesting that wealth does not eliminate moral weakness. Parker's clothing and appearance also carry symbolic meaning. He usually wears simple, practical clothing in neutral colors. This reflects his straightforward personality and disciplined mindset. When he adopts a wealthy disguise in Palm Beach, his wardrobe becomes more refined. This change symbolizes his ability to move between worlds. However, even in luxury clothing, his behavior remains controlled. The disguise highlights that identity can be flexible on the outside but firm on the inside. Fire appears symbolically during the betrayal scene. When Parker is shot and left in a burning car, the fire represents destruction and attempted erasure. His enemies try to eliminate him completely. However, Parker survives. His escape from the flames symbolizes rebirth. After this moment, he returns stronger and more focused. The fire becomes a turning point that transforms betrayal into determination. Another subtle symbol is the ocean in Palm Beach. Water often represents change and reflection. The calm ocean views contrast with the violent conflict happening beneath the surface. This contrast reflects Parker's internal state. On the outside, he appears calm and controlled, but underneath, there is tension and purpose. Leslie Rogers symbolizes vulnerability and aspiration. Her modest living space and struggling career represent unfulfilled ambition. As she becomes involved in Parker's mission, she symbolizes personal growth. Her movement from fear to courage mirrors the idea of stepping out of comfort zones to gain strength. Even the final confrontation carries symbolic meaning. Parker does not demand all the stolen jewels. He asks only for his share. This reinforces the central symbol of balance. He represents order in a world driven by greed. His actions symbolize restoring fairness according to his personal code. Overall, the symbolism in Parker supports its themes quietly but effectively. Money, fire, luxury settings, and personal appearance all carry deeper meaning. These hidden layers add depth to what might otherwise seem like a simple revenge story, reinforcing the film's focus on discipline, identity, and moral boundaries. While Parker is primarily presented as a crime thriller, it quietly reflects several social and cultural ideas beneath its action-driven surface. The film does not openly push political messages, but through its characters, settings, and conflicts, it comments on class difference, economic ambition, trust in institutions, and the role of personal justice in modern society. One of the strongest social commentaries in the film revolves around class contrast. The story moves between working-class spaces, such as the state fair and rural farmland, and extremely wealthy environments like Palm Beach mansions and luxury jewelry auctions. This sharp contrast highlights the economic divide between different layers of society. Crime exists in both worlds, but it looks different in each. At the state fair, the robbery feels raw and physical. In Palm Beach, the theft is connected to high-value jewels and elite social gatherings. The film subtly suggests that greed and corruption are not limited to any one social class. The jewelry auction itself symbolizes concentrated wealth. The event gathers individuals who can afford rare and extremely expensive items. This setting reflects the reality of economic inequality, where a small group controls significant financial resources. By placing a robbery in this environment, the film indirectly comments on the tension between wealth and vulnerability. Even those surrounded by security and luxury are not immune to crime. Another layer of commentary appears through Parker's personal code. In a world where trust is fragile, Parker represents a form of self-made order. He operates outside the legal system but follows strict rules. This reflects a cultural fascination with anti-heroes who create their own moral boundaries. The film suggests that institutions like law enforcement are distant or ineffective in certain criminal spaces. As a result, individuals enforce their own version of justice. This theme connects to broader social ideas about distrust in formal systems and admiration for personal accountability. Greed is presented as a destructive force across all environments. Melander's betrayal is driven by ambition and fear of missing out on greater profit. His actions reflect a broader cultural obsession with more money and bigger rewards. The film portrays this greed as dangerous, showing how it destroys loyalty and leads to violence. Through this, the movie comments on how unchecked ambition can weaken social bonds. Leslie Rogers' character adds another layer of social reflection. As a struggling real estate agent in a wealthy community, she represents individuals who live close to luxury but do not fully belong to it. She sees wealth every day but does not experience its security. Her frustration reflects the pressure of social comparison. In a culture focused on success and status, feeling left behind can create insecurity and desperation. Her growth throughout the film suggests that confidence and courage are more valuable than social approval. Culturally, the film reflects modern American individualism. Parker relies only on himself and a small circle of trusted contacts. He does not depend on larger systems. His survival and revenge are achieved through personal skill and discipline. This emphasis on self-reliance aligns with cultural ideals of independence and personal strength. The movie also presents violence in a grounded way, without glamorizing it excessively. This approach may reflect an awareness of audience expectations in contemporary action films. Rather than celebrating chaos, it shows consequences and tension, suggesting a more mature portrayal of crime. Overall, Parker offers subtle social commentary on class division, greed, personal justice, and self-reliance. While it does not openly discuss politics, its portrayal of wealth, ambition, and moral code reflects cultural ideas about trust, inequality, and individual responsibility in modern society. Parker delivers several impactful and memorable scenes that define the emotional and dramatic power of the film. These moments stand out not only because of action but because of tension, betrayal, and character decisions. Each key scene strengthens the themes of loyalty, greed, and personal code that drive the story forward. The opening State Fair robbery is one of the most memorable sequences in the film. It immediately pulls the audience into Parker's world. The fair setting, filled with bright lights, rides, and families, creates a sharp contrast to the hidden criminal activity unfolding beneath it. The crew moves with precision, disguised as workers. The scene is tense because everything depends on timing and coordination. The realism of the robbery makes it gripping. This sequence establishes Parker's professionalism and sets the tone for the rest of the movie. Another powerful moment is the betrayal scene on the roadside. After completing the robbery successfully, the crew pressures Parker to invest in a larger heist. When he refuses, the conversation shifts from disagreement to violence. The suddenness of Parker being shot is shocking. There is no long warning or dramatic buildup. The crew's decision to leave him in a burning car makes the betrayal feel brutal and personal. The fire surrounding him as he struggles to survive is visually intense. This scene marks the turning point of the story and transforms the film from a heist thriller into a revenge narrative. Parker's survival and escape from the burning car is also highly memorable. Injured and alone, he drags himself to safety. The scene emphasizes his resilience and determination. It is not flashy or exaggerated. Instead, it focuses on his will to live. This moment symbolizes his rebirth and sets up the path toward revenge. When Parker arrives in Palm Beach and confronts Leslie Rogers in her office, another impactful scene unfolds. He reveals his true identity and forces her to help him gather information. The tension in this scene is built through dialogue and body language rather than violence. Leslie's fear and confusion contrast with Parker's calm intensity. This moment marks the beginning of their unusual partnership and adds emotional depth to the story. The jewelry auction robbery sequence is another standout. The elegant setting filled with wealthy guests creates a high-stakes atmosphere. As Melinder's crew executes the plan, the tension rises steadily. The controlled pacing and quiet suspense make the eventual chaos feel more dramatic. The contrast between sparkling jewels and criminal action makes the scene visually striking and emotionally intense. The fight scenes during Parker's confrontation with the crew are also memorable. Each encounter feels personal and grounded. The physical fights are raw and realistic. One particular confrontation inside a house stands out because of its close-quarters intensity. The struggle feels dangerous and unpredictable, reinforcing the film's serious tone. The final showdown between Parker and Melinder is perhaps the most impactful scene of all. There is no exaggerated speech or dramatic pause. Parker demands only his rightful share. This quiet insistence highlights his commitment to his code. The confrontation ends decisively, reinforcing the film's message about fairness and consequence. Overall, the most memorable scenes in Parker combine tension, character development, and grounded action. From the opening heist to the final confrontation, each key moment strengthens the emotional and thematic core of the film. Parker fits firmly within the tradition of crime thrillers centered around professional criminals with strict personal codes. When comparing it to similar films, clear connections appear with movies that focus on disciplined anti-heroes, calculated revenge, and morally complex characters. At the same time, the film stands apart in its grounded tone and restrained storytelling style. One obvious comparison is with the film Payback, starring Mel Gibson. That movie also follows a betrayed criminal seeking his rightful share of stolen money. Both stories revolve around the idea of fairness within a criminal world. The main characters are not asking for everything. They simply demand what they were promised. This focus on principle rather than greed creates a strong thematic similarity. However, Payback uses darker humor and sharper stylistic elements, while Parker remains more straightforward and realistic. Another comparison can be made with the John Wick series. Both films feature skilled, disciplined protagonists who operate under strict rules. However, John Wick leans heavily into stylized action and exaggerated choreography. The violence is highly cinematic and almost artistic. In contrast, Parker keeps its fights grounded and physical. The action feels raw rather than choreographed for spectacle. This difference highlights how Parker prioritizes realism over visual flair. The film also shares similarities with heist movies like Heat. In Heat, professional criminals follow clear codes and value loyalty above all else. Betrayal leads to consequences. Both films show crime as organized and strategic rather than chaotic. However, Heat explores its characters in greater emotional depth and presents a broader ensemble cast. Parker keeps its focus narrower, centering mostly on one man's mission. Looking at Jason Statham's career, Parker stands out from some of his more action-heavy roles. In films like The Transporter or Crank, his characters are often larger than life, involved in high-speed chases and extreme stunts. Those movies embrace energy and exaggeration. Parker, by contrast, feels more restrained. The character is quieter and more controlled. The fights are intense but believable. This makes the film feel more serious compared to some of Statham's other projects. When examining director Taylor Hackford's other works, the contrast becomes even more interesting. Hackford is known for films like Ray, a biographical drama, and The Devil's Advocate, a psychological thriller. Compared to those movies, Parker is more straightforward in its storytelling. Hackford brings his experience with character-focused narratives into this crime thriller. His direction emphasizes discipline and emotional control rather than flashy action. This consistent focus on character aligns with his broader filmmaking style. In terms of adaptation, Parker connects to previous films based on Donald E. Westlake's novels. Earlier adaptations often changed the main character's name due to rights issues. This version stands out because it uses the original name, Parker. That choice links it more directly to the source material. Compared to older adaptations, this film presents a modern setting and contemporary pacing while maintaining the hard-edged tone of the books. Overall, Parker shares thematic elements with other revenge and heist films but distinguishes itself through restraint and realism. It avoids exaggerated style and focuses on discipline, loyalty, and consequence. While it may not be as visually bold as some modern action franchises, its grounded approach gives it a steady and mature identity within the crime thriller genre. The ending of Parker brings the story full circle by reinforcing the film's central themes of personal code, balance, and controlled justice. Unlike many action thrillers that conclude with explosive spectacle or emotional breakdown, this film ends in a calm and disciplined manner, reflecting the personality of its main character. The final act focuses on resolution rather than chaos, making the ending consistent with everything that came before it. After Melander and his crew successfully robbed the jewelry auction in Palm Beach, they believe they have escaped with millions in stolen gems. However, Parker has carefully tracked their movements. He waits for the right moment to confront them. Instead of attacking blindly, he isolates members of the crew one by one. This methodical approach shows that Parker is not motivated by rage but by precision and fairness. His goal has always been clear: he wants his rightful share, nothing more and nothing less. The final confrontation between Parker and Melander is direct and personal. When Parker faces Melander, there is no long emotional speech. Parker does not express dramatic anger or demand revenge in a loud way. He simply asks for what he was promised from the original robbery. This calm demand reinforces the idea that Parker operates under a strict moral system. To him, this is not about emotional revenge. It is about correcting a broken agreement. Melander, on the other hand, represents greed and insecurity. Even at the end, he refuses to accept responsibility for his betrayal. His downfall is a direct result of his own ambition. The final fight between the two men is physical and intense, but not exaggerated. It feels grounded and personal. When Parker ultimately defeats Melander, the moment feels like the restoration of balance rather than triumph. The conflict ends because fairness has been re-established in Parker's eyes. One important detail in the ending is that Parker does not take all of the stolen wealth. He takes only his share. This decision strengthens the film's core message. He is not driven by greed. He is driven by principle. By refusing to claim more than he is owed, Parker distinguishes himself from those who betrayed him. This final action confirms that his moral code remains intact, even after being shot and left for dead. Leslie Rogers' conclusion in the story also adds meaning to the ending. Parker ensures she is safe and even rewards her for her help. He does not abandon her or treat her as disposable. This shows that while he is a criminal, he values loyalty and contribution. Leslie's arc comes to a quiet resolution. She gains confidence and a sense of empowerment through her involvement in the dangerous situation. The film does not attempt to show Parker's future in detail. After settling the conflict, he disappears back into his life. This open-ended conclusion suggests that Parker will continue living by his code. The ending does not transform him into a different person. Instead, it confirms who he has always been. In final interpretation, the ending of Parker emphasizes discipline over emotion and fairness over excess. It reinforces the idea that personal rules define identity. Parker survives betrayal, restores balance, and leaves without seeking glory. The quiet tone of the ending mirrors the controlled tone of the entire film. Parker was produced with an estimated budget of around $35 million, placing it in the category of mid-range Hollywood action thrillers. It was not designed as a massive blockbuster with extreme special effects or global franchise ambitions. Instead, it was built as a character-driven crime film with recognizable stars and controlled production values. The budget was largely allocated to cast salaries, location filming in Florida and Louisiana, practical action sequences, and polished production design. From a financial standpoint, the film faced challenges at the box office. It was released in the United States on January 25, 2013. The January release window is often considered quieter compared to summer or holiday seasons, when large action films usually dominate theaters. In its opening weekend, Parker delivered modest numbers rather than a strong breakout performance. Competition from other releases and mixed marketing momentum affected its early impact. Domestically, the movie earned less than its production budget. In North America, it generated a limited theatrical return compared to expectations for a Jason Statham-led action film. However, international markets contributed additional revenue. Overseas audiences helped increase the total global earnings, pushing the worldwide box office total higher. Even with international support, the film's final box office performance was considered moderate rather than highly successful. Despite not becoming a major financial hit, Parker did benefit from Jason Statham's established global appeal. Statham had already built a reputation through films like The Transporter series, The Expendables, and other action projects. His presence helped attract fans who appreciated grounded action thrillers. Jennifer Lopez's involvement also added mainstream recognition, drawing attention from a broader audience beyond traditional action fans. Critical reception to the film was mixed. Some critics appreciated the disciplined tone and straightforward storytelling. They noted that the movie avoided unnecessary exaggeration and delivered solid performances, especially from Statham. The grounded action and focus on personal code were seen as strengths. Reviewers who enjoyed traditional crime thrillers often found the film reliable and consistent. However, other critics felt that the story was too familiar. Because the revenge-driven plot followed a recognizable formula, some reviewers described it as predictable. A few also commented that while the performances were solid, the film did not push boundaries or offer major surprises within the genre. This divided response contributed to its moderate reception. Audience reactions were also mixed but slightly more positive than critical reviews in some cases. Viewers who appreciated realistic fight scenes and straightforward storytelling found the film satisfying. Fans of Statham enjoyed seeing him in a more restrained and disciplined role compared to some of his more exaggerated action characters. Others felt the film was entertaining but not memorable enough to stand out among similar thrillers. Over time, Parker found additional life through home entertainment and streaming platforms. Like many mid-budget action films, it gained viewers outside of theaters. The accessible runtime, simple plot, and recognizable cast made it suitable for casual viewing. This secondary life helped maintain its presence in the action genre conversation. Overall, Parker performed modestly in theaters and received mixed reviews. It did not become a major box office success, but it maintained steady audience interest through home viewing. Its reputation remains that of a solid, disciplined crime thriller that delivered reliable action without attempting to redefine the genre. Parker may not be considered a groundbreaking action thriller, but it holds steady rewatch value for certain audiences. Its disciplined storytelling, grounded action, and clear character motivation make it a film that can be revisited without feeling confusing or overwhelming. While it does not rely on major twists or surprise endings, its strength lies in execution rather than shock. That quality gives it a different kind of staying power. One reason the film has rewatch value is its straightforward narrative structure. The story moves clearly from heist to betrayal to revenge. There are no complicated timelines or hidden secrets that require deep analysis to understand. This simplicity makes it easy to return to the film and enjoy the journey again. Viewers can focus on character details, small moments of tension, and performance nuances that might have been missed the first time. Jason Statham's portrayal of Parker adds to the rewatch experience. His performance is controlled and subtle. Because he does not rely on exaggerated emotional reactions, small gestures and expressions become more noticeable on repeat viewings. The quiet intensity of his character rewards attention. Observing how he plans, waits, and reacts can feel more satisfying the second time around. The action scenes also support rewatch value. The fights are grounded and realistic rather than flashy. This makes them less likely to feel outdated compared to heavily stylized action films. The physical choreography remains engaging because it feels authentic. The tension in close-quarters confrontations holds up even after knowing the outcome. Another element that encourages revisiting the film is its contrast between environments. The shift from the rough State Fair robbery to the polished luxury of Palm Beach creates a visual balance that remains interesting. The jewelry auction sequence, in particular, stands out because of its atmosphere and tension. Watching how the robbery unfolds from different perspectives can be engaging on multiple viewings. For audiences who enjoy crime thrillers centered on personal codes and anti-heroes, Parker delivers a clear message. The takeaway revolves around discipline, loyalty, and self-control. The film suggests that even in a corrupt world, personal principles matter. Parker survives because he sticks to his rules. He does not allow greed or emotion to override his judgment. That message can resonate with viewers who value consistency and integrity. The film also offers a reminder about the dangers of greed. Melander's downfall comes from pushing for more than what was agreed upon. His ambition leads to betrayal and ultimately to his defeat. The takeaway here is simple but strong. Breaking trust for greater reward can lead to destruction. This moral lesson gives the film thematic weight beyond its action sequences. Leslie Rogers' arc provides another audience takeaway. Her growth from insecurity to courage shows that confidence can develop through challenging situations. While she is not transformed into an action hero, she becomes stronger by facing fear. This subtle development adds emotional balance to the story. However, the rewatch value may depend on personal taste. Viewers who prefer unpredictable plots or high-concept storytelling may find the film less compelling over time. Its formula is familiar, and once the ending is known, the suspense element decreases. Still, for fans of disciplined revenge thrillers, familiarity can be comforting rather than disappointing. Overall, Parker offers steady rewatch value through strong character focus, realistic action, and consistent tone. The audience takeaway centers on loyalty, fairness, and the power of living by a personal code. If you are interested in watching Parker from 2013, there are several convenient ways to access the film today. Since its theatrical release, the movie has moved through multiple distribution stages, including home media, digital platforms, and television broadcasts. Availability can vary depending on your country and region, but the film is generally accessible through common viewing options. One of the most popular ways to watch Parker is through digital streaming platforms. Over the years, the movie has appeared on major subscription-based streaming services. These platforms sometimes rotate their libraries, so availability may change. If the film is included with a subscription, you can stream it directly without additional rental fees. If it is not part of the subscription catalog, it is often available for digital rental or purchase. Digital rental is a flexible option for viewers who want short-term access. Renting the movie typically gives you a limited viewing window, usually 24 to 48 hours after you begin watching. This option is ideal if you plan to watch the film once without committing to ownership. Digital purchase, on the other hand, allows you to permanently add the movie to your online library. Once purchased, you can stream it anytime through the platform's app or website. Parker is also available on Blu-ray and DVD formats. Physical copies provide consistent access without relying on internet connection or streaming rights. Blu-ray editions usually offer higher picture quality and better sound performance compared to DVD. For viewers who value clear visuals and strong audio, physical media can enhance the experience. Some editions may also include bonus features such as behind-the-scenes content, cast interviews, or commentary tracks. Cable television and premium movie channels occasionally broadcast Parker as part of their action or crime programming blocks. These scheduled airings provide another opportunity to watch the film without purchasing or renting it individually. However, broadcast versions may include commercial breaks and edited content depending on network policies. When deciding how to watch Parker, consider your preferred viewing setup. The film's grounded action and realistic sound design benefit from a larger screen and good audio equipment. Watching on a home theater system or a high-definition television can enhance the impact of fight scenes and tense confrontations. If viewing on a laptop, tablet, or smartphone, using headphones can improve the audio clarity and immersion. Because the film is rated R for violence and language, it is recommended for mature audiences. Before watching with family members or younger viewers, it is important to consider the content rating and ensure it fits your viewing preferences. For viewers who enjoy crime thrillers centered around personal codes and disciplined anti-heroes, Parker can be a solid addition to a weekend movie lineup. It works well as a standalone watch or as part of a marathon featuring similar action films starring Jason Statham. In summary, Parker is widely accessible through streaming, digital rental or purchase, physical media, and occasional television broadcasts. Availability may differ depending on location, but multiple options exist to experience the film in a format that suits your viewing habits. Whether you choose streaming convenience or physical ownership, the movie remains easy to find and watch today. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more gripping movie explanations like this.